Welcome to Commander Central, episode 117, and today we're going to talk about the Legends in Core 2020. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
Christopher is back in the house again, and he's never allowed to leave. People have actually asked me online, hey, when's Chris coming back? He's not, and I was like, he just moved. That was it, to a different house. He's been busy. He's not gone anywhere. So maybe I should be offended. I'm not sure. It's a compliment for Chris. Now that I'm thinking about it, like maybe people just don't like listening to Max and I talk. They need Chris laughing.
Yeah, that's fair. I can understand that.
I guess he's pretty likable.
Maybe it's because I harass people and don't give two rats what other people think about it.
And I mean, to be honest, Dana, they hear you 3 times a week.
That is true. I never shut up. That's a fair point. Any fun games get played this week? Well, first, I'm going to ask Chris how your modern testing's been going, because you were doing that on Tuesday late. I did see some Urza action that didn't go your way.
Yeah. Well, that matchup's kind of 50-50 depending on how we're playing. When you came over to watch, I was playing Dredge versus an Urza artifact deck that's mainboarding Grafdigger's Cage and other stuff like that.
Relic,
so,
and yeah, that wasn't a good head-to-head either. Urza's pretty gross. Even in Modern, let alone in... Is it seen playing Legacy at all?
I have no clue if it's seen playing Legacy.
I mean, it's such a narrow format, but like, I feel like...
It doesn't scare me in Modern. When I pulled out my Breach Titan deck, it was just like, whatever. I just win because I'm faster and you can't stop my combo. So
that's fair. Okay, so the original question I asked was games. Anything fun get played this week from anybody worth talking about?
I've already spoke about my games.
You did talk about yours a little bit.
They'll hear about that on Thursday.
Since we're recording in opposite order this week. I did play one where I was playing my Kresh deck and against 3 players, and I had a Phyrexian Arena out, and I had Kresh in play, who was like at that point a 12/12 or something, and I had cast a Realm Seekers, which is a card out of Conspiracy that gets a +1 counter for each land, or each card in everyone's hand when it comes into play, but doesn't have trample or anything. And I had cast the turn before for like 14 or 16 or something. Came back around to me, and like, that's an okay board state, but I have no way to punch that damage through. There was like, people with like 4 or 5 tokens out. I had a land in hand, I think, and nothing else. So I top decked my 2 cards, one off Arena and one off my normal draw, and it was Gravitic Punch and a Fling. And I was able to then fling one person who was down low enough with the Realm Seekers to kill them, and then Gravitic Punch the second person with the Kresh, who at that point was like a 28/28, and then pitch my land to do the jump start on a Gravitic Punch to the third person.
Cheater.
So I was like, okay, well, that just happened. And actually, it was one of the players was patron supporter Austin at the local shop, and he was like, okay, well,
Yep.
Let's do it again. So yeah, top deck hero mode for me there in that game. Other than that, I saw some interesting decks get played. I saw Tulsamir, Friend of Wolves, again for the second time. It's not a super strong deck, but I like that kind of deck where you see stupid cards that like wolves that you just never see anywhere else. Plus, it just got a ton of new cards in this core set for it as well. That's just kind of been a fun deck. Both times I've played that. So that's been fun to see. And I actually saw 2 people that were firing off Oathbreaker for the first time in the shop.
Oh, that's right, because you've been gone.
I've been gone. I missed the last week and then the previous week, so I haven't seen much. But I did see some Oathbreaker get played, so it does get played a tiny bit at least. I'm still not that into it, but
no comment.
It looked fine.
if it was 1v1, I'd be all over it.
Yeah.
I think it's pointless to play it in multiplayer.
If I'm playing multiplayer, I would rather just play Commander.
Yeah.
And maybe at some point it'll kind of evolve into that too. I did like that they were talking about on Command Zone a little bit, and one of the points they made was maybe it's the format that just doesn't care about the social contract and degenerate stuff happens, and it's what you go to play degenerate stuff instead of Commander. Like, that kind of makes sense. Maybe that's a niche that needs to be filled. But it was fine. Maybe I need to try a deck and see if I like it, I guess. But playing it didn't make me super want to sit down and build a deck. But
that's why it needs to be 1v1, because I want to play Ashiok and...
Well, maybe because you don't feel bad about it. Right.
Yep.
And just be like, what's up, homies?
Right. And then there's no feel bads for anything because it's 1v1 and that's just you're playing to win and that's what it is. So that was my limited experience with at least watching an Oathbreaker game. If you want to reach out to us and tell us about your experience with Oathbreaker or anything else, how would you guys do that? Chris?
I forgot because I don't want to hear about Oathbreaker.
Yeah, I'm with Chris on this one.
No, I'm kidding.
You can
I'm
write
kidding.
at CCO Podcast.
Right.
Oh. Well, for anything you want to reach out and talk to us about, one of us will end up chatting with you. You can find us on Twitter at CMDR Central. You can Facebook search us CMDR Central. You can find us on YouTube by searching CMDR Central, and you can find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
You can also find us on patreon.com by searching CMDR Central. And if you are so inclined and able to help us out by supporting the show financially, we greatly appreciate that. And we have about a ton of new people to say thank you to.
You're going to
I
find
was
an
going to say a
exact
number, but there's too many.
So who do we have?
So we want to say thank you to Marty Pove, Nick Tosini, Tyler Okonek, Bart Odell, Sadie Avery, John Reyna, Lee Wilkie, Sean Murray, Melanie Seblin, and Mick Perez.
Wow. Well, thank you all very much for supporting the show. We really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
Yes,
And I'm sure,
Guys and girls. And
I'm sure Max butchered
Yeah.
at least 4 of those names.
at least two. At least two.
I wonder at this point if people are like, I wasn't going to support the show, but my last name is complicated and it's worth spending $2 a month to hear Max try to pronounce it.
I will accept that challenge.
Well, it's like our one patron supporter, Jake,
Yeah.
message. He's like, I don't know why my last name didn't go up there, but you didn't get my name wrong.
So we do have a couple of contests that wrapped up last month.
Yes.
We will be announcing the winners of both that Twitter contest and the Patreon drawing on the Decks You Play episode that's going to air on July 11th, I believe. That's the Thursday after the 4th of July.
Okay. Sounds good.
But we do have a couple new contests to announce since it is the month of July.
All right.
For Twitter, we are going to be giving away.
It's an oversized two-headed dragon, I believe. Is that correct?
It is. It's an oversized two-headed dragon. So we'll be shooting that out on Twitter. Retweet the picture when you see it, and Chris is holding it around like a Vanna White. Can't wait till we move to video for this.
Is that a 9th edition, I think?
Yes, a black border
Nice.
9th edition.
8th edition. Okay. Very cool. And how about for Patreon supporters?
For Patreon, since we're talking about Core 20 today,
Yeah.
we're going to be giving away a bundle of Core 20
Oh, nice.
to all of our patron supporters who support us during the month of July, and
Excellent.
we'll do that drawing in the beginning of August.
Very cool. You can also find us on Teespring if you're looking to sport some sweet Commander Central t-shirts.
Yeah, and we will have a couple of new designs out by the end of the month, just in time so we can get them for Vegas.
All right.
So we
Exciting.
have, for sure, Scumbags Unite
Excellent.
and Trash Card. And we got to figure out a catchphrase for Dana.
We'll figure out something, yeah, for sure.
Well,
Now,
it keeps changing on Slack every time.
maybe I'll
I
just
know.
wear Chris's trash card shirt and confuse people.
We'll record the laugh, so when you do laugh, you just hit a button.
I can hit a button and play it on my phone. That's a good idea. I like that. One thing I will mention, we talked about getting feedback from listeners. We had a dozen people contact us or me about us doing a flashback episode where we went and talked about the cards we changed in our decks from War of the Spark and then went back 6 weeks later and reviewed it.
Yep.
We had a ton of feedback from everyone saying do that again for shows because that was really useful both to hear the thought process and then hear the review afterwards.
Yeah.
So things are a little bit busy for the next couple weeks just because 4th of July is coming up, but I think we'll do a Modern Horizons version of that sometime in mid-July. And then
All
probably-
trash cards.
Oh, it is, all of them. And then revisit that at some point in probably September.
Cool.
They're trash cards because they're expensive.
And I told everybody, whoever's listening to this, and I told you about Prismatic Vista. Just
That
let
card-
it and sit
come
there
on,
and
that
think
card.
in. It just, oh.
I
knew
not
it
that
would
I
not
thought
go
it was
down.
going to be. I didn't think it was going to be cheap, but I'm like, I can probably get it for 18 to 20 maybe when it drops. Oh no, it's like this week I'm like, I got to pick up one and it was like 26. Like, come on.
Ouch.
And it's not going to go down from there because people aren't drafting that anymore. It'll be 30 in 3 months, if not more. Yeah, that's get them while they're hot. Because
Yeah.
It's a good thing those the price tag on the packs are not $10 a piece. So
Yes.
you can chase cards like that because it is just a rare.
But that also because there's not a foil in every pack, the foils, the multiplier in the foils is way higher than it
Yep.
is on like a modern Horizon or not modern Horizons, a modern Masters kind of set, a
Yeah.
Master set. So. Yeah, if you are a foil nerd like I am to a degree, that's not going to be any fun at all. Because I want the black-green Horizon land. I'm like, oh, the foil for that. It's like, closing it on $100. The foil Vista's like 80-ish, I think. One of the guys in the shop cracked one actually, and he posted, "Does anyone want this?" And I didn't see his post in the local shop Discord until like 3 days later. And I messaged him after I saw it. I'm like, "Do you still have this?" Like, "No, I got rid of it a few hours ago," to the shop owner. I'm like, "Come on!"
Oh.
And I know I'm betting he put it in his foiled out Super Friends deck. I'm betting.
Or Affinity, or
Probably
Or
sitting.
right, who
it's probably
knows?
sitting in the case, to be honest.
I might
with
have to
you.
ask him if he wants to, if he'll part with that. So yeah, we will come back and revisit Modern Horizons and take a look at the cards we put in decks, and then do a review after that. So we got good feedback there. Thank you everybody who reached out to us to talk about that. Any final business? I don't think so. Before we get into this core set.
I have one final thing.
Ooh, what do you got?
We announced a few weeks back that we're going to change up some Patreon rewards.
Yeah, yep.
Effective July 1st. We're going to push that back till August 1st, just so we can finalize stuff. We've all kind of been busy.
Okay.
Haven't really gotten to regroup as a team to finalize everything. So
Yeah, this first month of the summer, we've been traveling and buying houses and doing things of that nature. So we're just a little bit disorganized at the moment.
So we'll have those all updated and ready to go by the 1st of August.
Good deal. All right, let's look at these legends, shall we?
Trash cards.
All of them are kind of trash. Taking the catchphrase.
I was about to say something too, and he just like jumped in. I'm like, "Ah."
Sorry.
So it's always a challenge on these set reviews because I like doing a set review for a new set to talk about the cards, but you're just talking about a card, and there's also, a dozen other podcasts out there talking about the cards and doing a review, and it's nice to try to do something a little bit different. So what we're going to try to do for this one is go over these legends and talk about when someone sits down in your pod and flips over their commander and you see it being this legend. First of all, what are you expecting the deck to be doing? And how do you handle it? What's your thought process? What are you going to do to respond to that deck, assuming it's doing the thing that you think it's going to be doing? Like, what's your defense? How strong do you think it's going to be? What's your interaction going to be? That kind of thing. So we'll just go through them alphabetically here, if that's fine.
Works for me.
And we'll start with Artemis the All-Seeing. That is the Sphinx, 3 blue, blue, blue. And it has flying and a 2 blue tap to draw 2 cards and discard a card. But the real interesting thing here is it says, whenever Artemis All-Seeing deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs get revealed this way, that player loses the game. And it's a 4/5. So someone sits down, flips Artemis as their commander. What's your assumption the deck's doing, and how do you deal with it? Does it have to be your number one target? What's your thoughts, Max?
So first, I think this deck is going to do a lot of, the card draw, the factor fictions, the ponders, the Preordorian brainstorms.
Well, the first thing I'll say is I doubt you'll see this as a commander very often. I think it'll be in the Unesh deck because that's already built around drawing a ton of cards anyway. So it's going to be something they'll play in an Unesh deck to draw a ton of cards. I'll play it in Asperia. But like if you're playing mono, I don't know if it's going to be that common of a mono blue commander.
There's so many more powerful mono blue commanders.
Yeah.
And that's true with probably 3 or 4 of these mono ones, but we'll talk about it anyway.
I do think if this was the commander of a deck, though, you're going to see a lot of counter magic, a lot of probably control, propaganda, stuff to slow the game down so, they can get the amount of cards in their hand with different CMCs to just win the game. Probably play some equipment that they can tap it to deal a point of damage.
Yeah,
because it's not combat damage.
Correct. How about you, Chris? What's your thoughts there when you see it?
Trash card. I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, this is one of those cards that people get all hyped about, and this isn't like a shot at anybody out there in general, but most players that I play with do not know their decks well enough to realize that this card, you need to be able to know, I have 5, 6 CMC cards, I have 10 CMC 4 cards, to set it up the deck properly to make the ability work.
It's definitely an interesting take on like the Yasan problem. Like the Yasan is the same thing. You have the 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drops.
Yep. Kind of doing the same thing.
Same thing, but in a completely different way because you don't care about the creatures. You just care about spells.
Yep. And it becomes maybe a non-issue if you run like ways to generate a ton of mana and you're just gonna hit yourself with a Blue Sun Zenith for 16.
Yes.
And then swing in and you're like, well, I don't even care. Odds are pretty high. I've got 6 different CMCs because you've just drawn so many cards, which is what the Unesh thing will kind of do. I look at it and I think it's kind of a bit like Max's Brago deck, at least as a commander. Brago isn't scary unless Brago can deal damage to somebody and There's things in play he can blink for value. There's been enough times when Max has played Brago, and I've looked around him and I'm like, I've got a Sphinx out, and that dude has 3 tokens that have flying, and that person's got 2 dragons, and Max has nothing else that he can blink. So I'm like, okay, he's 3 or 4 turns away from being a problem. He needs to, number 1, clear out the board. Number 2, play something worth blinking, and then be able to get through. I'm like, okay, I can not worry about it. Tempest is the same way. Like, okay, I look around. Someone has to get through with damage, and they have to have, in a perfect situation, at least 6 cards in hand. Let alone, like, if they're a 3, well, you don't have to worry about anything for a turn or 2, probably, let alone if there's blockers. So, like, this one feels like, even in a well-built deck, you can count the cards in their hand, look for blockers in the air, and move on with your business until that becomes a problem. How about Drakaseth, Maw of Flames? I'll toss this one to Chris first.
Would you like me to read the card?
Would you please?
I will read the card. It is a red card that's trash, and you just throw it in the garbage right now.
It probably shouldn't be your commander.
No, it should not.
Again.
So, Drakaseth, Maw of Flames is a 7-mana 7/7. So, 4 colorless, 3 red pips. Flying. Whenever he or she deals damage, whenever it attacks, it deals 4 damage to
It's on attack.
any target and 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. Why do they word these cards so crappy like this nowadays?
Because of the Planeswalker thing.
Okay.
So it can hit creatures. Otherwise, it would have to say player, creature, or Planeswalker. So they said it's any target. And up to means you're not limited to just 2. If there's 1 creature out, you can just hit 1. So they say up to, so you can choose.
So pretty much all it is a Inferno Titan. Just
kind
bigger,
of.
1 more mana.
It's a Commander Inferno Titan-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe you run a bunch of damage doublers so you can, ping people for 4 and 6 and 6.
I mean,
it's, again, similar to Tempest. This is going to be in an Ur Dragon deck or a Scion deck or something like that more than anything.
I think it goes in majority of your big red decks.
Yeah.
What is that dinosaur now? The 6-mana 6/6.
Atali.
Yeah. I mean, that would be perfect in Atali.
Flip that off the top of Atali.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's solid.
Throw it into play. And then they got 2 threats to worry about. Because now they got to worry about Atali flipping stuff, and they got to worry about this once it attacks.
Yeah.
So it's going to take out blockers that could cause an issue type of deal.
I'll say this, if this is your commander, I have no idea what your deck is. Maybe Dragon Tribal, but I don't know what it's supposed to be. Maybe some kind of a mono red pinger deck. I don't know what you'd be trying to do. It's not particularly aggressive. It doesn't have haste. I doubt you'll see it very often atop a deck, and I think if you do, you probably don't have to worry.
I mean, it could. I mean, I know I can think of a ton of decks I'd put it in.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, any good mono red deck, even if I was playing goblins or something, I think I'd slap it in here just as a removal card.
And like I said, if somebody drops this and they put a gratuitous violence out, and they get grease on it or something, it's hitting you for 14 in the face, and then doing an additional 8/6/6. That's
an additional
brutal.
20 damage.
Yeah, that's brutal. But so maybe there's something like maybe someone has a deck that they're brewing right now that's got 17 mana rocks, so you can actually get it out in a reasonable amount of time, and like that. I mean, I could see that.
Yeah, I don't think this is a commander for a deck, but it definitely goes in all those Gruul stompy decks, like a Xenagos, God of Revels deck.
Yeah. And again, I feel it's a bit like I remember playing against Thraxamundar decks where you're just counting Thrax, like how much mana can the person make? Okay, they're 3 back. The odds of them drawing 3 mana this turn is pretty slim. I'm fine for a turn or 2. Like this thing was done in the field, you're probably not worried. And when it's on the field, it still doesn't have haste, so you're like looking around for Greaves. If there's no Greaves, you can just kill it. I mean, I don't think it's a huge threat.
Yeah.
Comparatively, the next card we're looking at here, Max, you want to take Gargos Vicious Watcher?
Yeah, so Gargos Vicious Watcher is 3 triple green for a legendary creature Hydra. It has power toughness 8/7. It has vigilance. Hydra spells you cast cost 4 less
4 mana
to
less.
cast. And then whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, Gargos fights up to 1 target creature you don't control.
An 8/7 for 6 is pretty solid. And vigilance is okay.
Vigilance is great in Commander.
Yeah, I'll take it. That's free. In green, defend yourself. That's a legit card, I think.
Out of all the monocolored ones, yes, this is the most legit card.
Because nothing else.
I think it is.
There's one. There's like, I don't. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right. We'll hit the rest in a little bit. So someone plays us. I'm assuming they're playing Hydra Tribal, right? I can't imagine a situation where they're not playing Hydra Tribal.
Still an 8/7 for 6.
Still right. That's still okay.
And it's whenever any creature you control becomes a target, not a Hydra.
That's true.
Any creature.
That's fair.
Yep.
So maybe you just run some really good Hydras and some other stuff, and you're running. Yeah, no, that's a good point. man, you got to deal with that, I think, pretty quickly. Knocking 4 per Hydra off is a lot of mana you're saving when this comes down. And Hydras, by and large, do scary things.
Yes.
And this makes really good spells that are already really good, like Berserk, or even Giant Growth, giving it +3/+3. Basically, Giant Growth becomes a kill spell. This is an 8/7. If you throw Giant Growth on this and turn it into an 11/10,
and it fights,
and it kills a creature, it's going to kill 95% of the creatures that you see in a table, and then it's swinging through for command damage. You're already on a 3-turn clock. Any kind of buff makes it a 2-turn clock, probably. It doesn't have trample natively, but in green, that's no big deal. Half the Hydras give,
trample.
Creatures trample.
Nylea.
Yeah.
Done.
So Berserk does it. Any of the overruns, like there's a ton of ways that's just not really going to be an issue. And also probably you're in green, so you're ramping. Like you would say, shut the commander off, kill it. But they're just going to play their Hydras anyway. I mean, saving 4 mana is great, but like
they'll just put it back into that X no matter what.
They'll just play 1 Giant Hydra instead of 2 Giant Hydras that turn, and that's still a problem probably. I want to, like, if I didn't have a mono green deck already and I don't like to duplicate, I would build this deck because there's so many cool Hydras. I think it's really, really strong, and I think it's going to be really fun to play.
I don't think I'd go straight Hydras with it, though. I think it would just be green good creatures.
It would support that for sure. I actually wasn't even, until you mentioned it a few minutes ago, I didn't really thought about that, but that's a fair point. I mean, you can run the Hydras that are really good, and then there's plenty of utility.
Your Genesis Hydra, your other new Hydra in the core set.
Yeah. Primordial Hydra is really, really good.
Yes, I mean you can run the good ones that just benefit off this, but even if it's not out, you still have a good value going.
Sometimes you have those tribes where you're like, I'm going to run these, 5 good members of the tribe, and then like there's these 4 or 5 ones that are like okay. Hydras, you have you can run 10 to 12 Hydras that are legit really strong cards before you have to get into the ones that are like, it's still pretty good. Like Polukranos is still a pretty decent card, and Polukranos may not be one of the top 10 Hydras.
No.
Like that's one of the ones you're like, I'm not sure Polukranos is good enough for this deck. Maybe.
Well, before this card, you never had to worry about a Hydra deck though, neither until turn 6 or 7.
Right.
I mean, before that, you're just like whatever. So you're playing. If you do cast an X cost Hydra, you're only going to get 2/2 out of it. Yeah.
You're taking your whole turn up too.
Or you're just wasting all your turns ramping, and I'm just getting set up and waiting for you to actually do something.
Whereas the stuff you set up now, this can kill those creatures the other person set up too. So like it's equalizing things in addition to letting you get ahead. Yeah, I'm just a big fan. The next one we have here is Golos Tireless Pilgrim.
The best monocolored one.
5 colorless mana. It's a legendary artifact creature. When a Golos Tireless Pilgrim enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land card and put it on the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library.
Sad robot.
Yeah.
For 1 more mana.
He grew up. He's not sad anymore.
I call it Swole Sad Robot. For 2 in Wooburg, you can exile the top 3 cards of your library, and you may play those this turn without paying their mana cost.
Oof.
All right, so someone sits down and reveals their Golos Tireless Pilgrim.
If it's me, it will be 5 color planeswalkers, because this is what I'm changing. So I changed I wanted to build Sisse, so I started picking up pieces for that. And then this got spoiled. I'm like, this is going to be the one that I use now.
All right.
For sure.
How about you, Max? What are you...
I think this is just like 5 color good stuff. Like it goes into Ramos, or it could be in the deck that Ramos would normally lead. For 7 mana, exiling, 3 Eldrazi's.
Right.
And bang, bang, bang. Yeah, you don't get the cast triggers, but you're still dropping 3 Eldrazi's.
My only concern about Golos across the table for me is that it's a Narset deck.
Yes.
Because, number one, if you can cast Golos, you'll go get a mana that will probably guarantee you can make the Wooburg. And the next turn, you'll make your land drop, so you're going to be at the 7 mana activation ability. You are in colors that have access to, you're in all the colors, so you have access to 8 to 10 different top of deck tutors that let you put cards specifically on the top of your library. And if you want to then throw that expropriate or that time stretch on there and immediately flip that, with the activation, or Omniscience. But you do Omniscience after you do the time stretch, so you get 2 turns. Then you go get Expropriate and take a couple more turns with that Omniscience, and then play whatever you've happened to draw in addition to that, and then you go grab, a couple extra attack steps if you want, or just like Time Walks, because you're getting 3 spells. So you grab a Time Walk and you grab a Relentless Assault, so you get multiple combat steps and another turn and do the same thing again. Like, you can very easily in this deck, just if you one time activate Golos, no one plays Magic again and the game's over. I don't know if that's going to be the only way to build it, because number one, a lot of those tutors are expensive.
Yeah.
A lot of the extra turn spells are expensive.
Not to mention you are playing 5 colors.
You're playing 5
so
colors.
It's hard to manage the right amount of cards
so
whatever.
To do it consistently, the real hype version of this deck is going to have ABUR duels and the shocks and the fetches, and like this could easily, to build that tuned version of the deck, be a $3,000 or $4,000 deck, if not more. So that is the only concern when someone plays it. I'm like, dude, this person, like, have they proxied up 10 dual lands and the perfect mana base to go to the time stretch version of this deck?
Honestly, I think if I did it, it would be more of the that artifact that untaps your non-land permanents whenever you cast a card.
Oh, Paradox Engine?
Yep. And you play all the mana rocks, so you do that. You have cards in your hand.
Sure.
You tap it. Okay, you may play those cards from the top. And you cast cards from your hand, so you trigger the Paradox Engine, untap everything, do it again.
Yeah, you
do it again.
And cast your whole library.
Yep.
But again, there's a gazillion cards that just go and put up Paradox Engine. So, like, if you want to do that, that's a thing that people are going to do anyway.
I'm guessing you have to follow spell speed with the cards you exile.
I would assume so.
Okay, because I was going to say, then that's really broken if you don't have to, because you just do this at everybody's turn.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like, play Seedborn Muse and just untap all your lands every turn.
But Chris is right mentioning Super Friends. Beyond that, you can do anything with it. It's very, very open-ended.
I mean, if you go the high power route, like you were saying, Dana, it becomes more of a glass cannon type of deck, because how are you going to cast all those 9 drops and whatnot without Golos on the field? And
if someone drops Golos and they can't activate it immediately and they can't protect it, and someone removes it, well then okay, next turn it's going to be 7 mana and 9, and if you're playing that deck, people aren't going to realize it and they're just not going to let you cast it, and it's going to be a difficult thing to keep up. When your deck's built around casting 10 drops for free, if you can't cast them for free, you're casting 10 drops, and that's a whole different deal. So I think it's probably pretty shutdownable too, even in that perfect version of it, but it can definitely be a very dangerous commander, I think.
Yeah.
Max, why don't you lay the first 3-color commander here on us? Kaalia Zenith Seeker.
Kaalia Zenith Seeker.
You guys skipped a monocolored one.
We're going alphabetical, so we'll hit the rest of the mono ones later in the list. I'm just going down Scryfall. Kaalia Zenith Seeker, Max.
She is 3 mana, Mardu, red, white, and black, for a 3/3 legendary creature human cleric who has flying and vigilance. And then she also has, when she enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal an angel card, a demon card, and or a dragon card from among them and put them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
So what do you think of this Kaalia when someone pulls out Kaalia for their deck?
I think it goes...
They picked the wrong one.
Yeah, they picked the wrong one.
The problem with original Kaalia, though, is people tend to not let you do anything. Whereas I think this... If I see this Kaalia, I'm going to let you play Magic because I feel like whatever you're doing is probably fair. So I'm not going to. You're not a threat to me. Doesn't mean that the deck's not good. There's a balance there, but like it doesn't worry me the way the original Kaalia maybe does.
I think this is one of these cards that you have to set up for. This isn't you don't play Kaalia on turn 3 because you're going to pull out. Here's a 7-drop dragon that I can't cast because I'm in Mardu and probably in land hosed. Sure. Only kept like a 3-land hand. Well,
so you can pull up to 3 cards, but to do that, like, you need to have on average 60 creatures in the deck to hit 3. That's not a thing anyone's going to do. To hit 2, you need to have, 30-ish creatures. That's still a lot in a Mardu deck. But playing your commander, you are in blink colors. White's got a ton of blink effects. It is ETB. So, I mean... If you assume the commander is not the focal point of your deck and you're just going to play maybe almost like a semi-control game, white-black control, where you've got access to big beaters to close it out and your commander is just a draw engine that you're going to blink and hit multiple cards here or there, or recast when you want to get a couple cards in hand. I think that's a playable deck.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen people turn worse commanders into a deck because they're clever deck builders. But I also think it's kind of boring.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's boring. I guess personally, I would rather play the original Kaalia
And just deal with the heat. Yeah,
versus
that's fair.
Versus trying to make it to the late game to bring the heat.
Versus trying to make a mediocre commander really good.
Yeah.
It's going to run into the same Kaalia thing I tell everyone else. Kaalia is better in the 99 than as your general. Because
people can't see it coming.
Yeah, they just don't see it coming.
Yeah.
And this one is definitely better, in my opinion, if you're playing like 5-color dragons or something like that. Because their ability of just, okay, put her into play, look at the top 6, get a dragon. If I ever a dragon out, costs even less, slam that dragon into play. I mean, that kind of stuff.
And she's a 3/3 with flying and vigilance. That's not terrible for 3 mana. So, okay, Chris, Cthis the Hidden Hand.
Why'd I get this one? So Cthis the Hidden Hand is Abzan. That's 1 white, 1 black, and 1 green for legendary creature Elf Advisor. Oh my gosh, we got an Abzan elf. Too bad his abilities have nothing to do with elves.
I'm assuming he's on Fiora. That's a very Fiora-looking elf.
So legendary spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Now, exile 2 legendary cards from your graveyard. Now, legendary cards, so just remember that.
Yes, any legendary card you can use.
Until end of turn, each legendary card in your graveyard gains, you may play this card from your graveyard. And this guy is a 3/4.
So, we sit down, someone flips over Cthis. What do you think their deck's going to be?
I think if it's going to be one of 2 things.
Elves.
Yeah, all legendary elf. I mean, there's maybe enough. You can maybe do legendary elves.
I don't think there's enough legendary elves.
No, the best one's banned.
Right, yeah. And not in your colors.
Well, 2 of them, the best,
two of them,
one's not in your color, the one is banned.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Hate Bears.
Sure.
Because all the Thalias are legendary, you have a bunch of legendary stuff like that, or else it's just going to be Legend Tribal.
Or Super Friends.
With a graveyard theme.
Sure. I mean, or it could be Super Friends. Because they're legends, so they'll cost 1 less. And
I think it would be a mix of both. I honestly think Max would be right with the legendary tribal overall. Just play every creature, because you're playing a singleton deck anyway, so it doesn't matter if you play all legends.
Right.
And the ability to make them cost less, plus the ability to recast them out of your graveyard. The big thing I was thinking was you're going to have to, when you're playing against this deck, it's going to be one of those where you're looking at the legends and go, okay, that's a trash legend, that's a trash legend.
Yes, right.
Don't worry about that. Okay, that one right there is a good one. I need to get rid of that one.
Because that's the problem here. It's like a Yawgmoth's Will effect where you exile 2 legends and you can cast from your graveyard. But how many legends are there really going to be casting from their graveyard that you care about that are like cheap enough that they can cast multiples? Yawgmoth's Will is great because you're like, I'm going to bring this fetch land back, I'm going to bring back my Soul Ring that this person blew up, and I'm going to cast this Swords to Plowshares, and I'm going to cast this Brainstorm. When you're talking about legends in your graveyard, there are definitely some that are 1 or 2 mana that are good. But like by and large, you're looking at 4 and 5 mana for the good ones. And how many can you really afford to cast? Okay, I'm exiling 2 cards to recast this Thalia or recast this, the Sidisi or something. That's good, but like you can't do that consistently. You're going to run out of cards in your graveyard unless you're doing a ton of mill stuff. I do think the Planeswalker thing is interesting. We got a bunch of uncommon Planeswalkers in War of the Spark, many of which are pretty aggressively costed, and they all have those roll-down abilities. So I think pretty frequently you're going to find yourself in a situation where like you've just rolled down your, I can't even think what some of the uncommon ones are in those color combinations.
Or just say Nahiri.
Sure, yeah. Where you're rolling them down to use the -2 ability twice. Angrath I guess you're not in red, but whatever.
Same with Nahiri.
Wanderer.
It was the first one
there
that
you go,
popped
the
in my
Wanderer.
mind. Yeah.
You use the -2 ability till they're dead, and then you either like recast it if you need to.
That's the thing
or
with
you just exile. You're done.
all the ones that minus, they don't kill themselves.
Right, they that's the
stop
problem.
at 1 loyalty, and then they have to physically be killed by something
And maybe
else.
at that point, then, maybe that creates an interesting interaction. Usually, you get them down to 1, and everyone's like, "I'm just going to kill it because it gets rid of the passive ability." Maybe in this case, you're like, "I'm going to leave it in play because I'd rather have the passive ability than have the Wanderer use its -2 twice to exile 2 more creatures." So I think that's interesting with those uncommon Planeswalkers. But I'm generally, I think, looking at the card, I don't know if I'm too worried about it. And if I'm holding
it's all going to depend on how it's built.
Sure. Yep. And if I'm holding a Rest in Peace in my hand, I'm really not worried about it. Like if you're packing your Propionwana Graveyard Hate, then all it is a medallion for legendary creatures, and that definitely
But the
doesn't concern
upside to
me.
this deck is it's in the perfect colors to get rid of those
It
permanents.
is. Yep. It
that
has all
lock
the
you out of your
removal.
graveyard.
It has all the removal for enchantments and artifacts that
Yep.
hate on graveyards.
And it has like Leyline of the Void, so you can just flip the whole graveyard hate around on the table.
Sure.
Be like, okay, I have Anafenza and a Leyline of the Void. Cool, I can stack my graveyard. You guys don't have one.
Right. Up next, we'll do Kykar Wind's Fury. 1 blue, red, white. It's a legendary creature, bird wizard. It's a 3/3 with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, and you may sacrifice a creature to add a red to your mana pool. So someone flips over Kykar. What do you think that deck is?
I have 2 versions of what I think this deck's going to be.
I think there's multiple good versions, and there's 10 weird corner case mediocre versions that someone could make that are still kind of interesting. What do you think the 2 that you're going to see most frequently?
Pillow Fort / Protection. So a control shell.
Okay.
Because Abzan is perfect colors for all of that.
Jeskai.
Jeskai, whatever.
Same thing.
America!
There we go.
Or it's going to be hyper aggressive.
Oh, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
going to turn into a
A Narset deck, essentially.
no, not Narset, more like Shu Yun.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, because Matt Morgan on EDH Redcast has a Shu Yun deck, and he's just turning it into this. He's barely making any changes.
The ability to create tokens with it and then sack them off for mana to keep casting your other spells is pretty gross. And you can pretty much just pump your commander to kill one-shot someone very easily. The other reason I think for the Pillow Fort Protection is the ability to go, okay, counterspell, pass, play an enchantment that protects me, create spirits that just sit there and block for days.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a legit Super Friends commander, I think, as well, because it protects your stuff.
Yep.
There's definitely weird combo interactions using that sacrifice a spirit to make mana thing. I mean, it's a kind of a better Talrand in a lot of ways. I guess the spirits are 1/1s instead of 2/2s, but you have access to 2 additional colors that are pretty useful at trying to do spell slinging kind of stuff. I mean, you could make a bird tribal deck out of this, because when you're casting any of your buff spells for your birds, whatever you're making more flyers that interact with favorable winds, interact with gravitational shift. You could probably build a wizard deck. Any of the spells that interact with wizards, you're making spirits for free off those, which make more mana to cast more spells. I don't think those are going to be good decks, but if someone flips it over and is like, I made a bird tribal deck with Kykar, I'm going to be like, oh, all right, I bet you did, and I bet it's going to be fine. It's not going to be bad.
No, this is definitely going to be that deck when they flip it over. You're going to have no clue what they're playing until about turn 5 or 6,
Yeah.
and then you're going to be like, oh, okay, so that's how we're playing this one.
Which is awesome.
Yep.
I love that about a commander where I have no idea what direction you're going to take it. And I think there's probably ways to break this. I didn't delve too deeply into the combos. I think I've seen some talk about Kiki Chiki. I didn't really dig into what the combo was there, but there's some stuff there. But it doesn't have to be that. There's some commanders you're like, oh, it's Narset. This person isn't playing Kobold Tribal Narset. It's something that's broken. In this case, I have no idea. It could be something broken. It could be something cool. It could be something weird. It could be anything. And I don't know how to respond to that then either. Because I also feel like there's some commanders where you can shut off the commander and then they're done. If you throw a Song of the Dryads on some commanders, they just are done with playing Magic. And I feel like with this one, that's probably not true. There's probably enough other stuff going on because you're probably looking to cast so many of those non-creature spells. You have ways to deal with anything someone's going to do. And you're in blue, so you have protection.
Yep.
Yeah, I like this commander a lot, and it's going to be a difficult one to deal with, I think.
It's going to be everywhere, too. That's what I don't like, but everybody wants to build this commander.
This, I would guess, is going to be very, very popular. I agree.
Have fun, y'all.
Yep.
Max, Omnath Locus of the Royal is next.
Omnath Locus of the Royal is 1 in Temur, so green, blue, and red for a legendary creature elemental. He's a 3/3, and he says when Omnath Locus of the Royal enters the battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals you control. And then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on target elemental you control. If you control 8 or more lands, draw a card.
What do you guys think this was going to be?
This is another 2-variant deck, in my opinion.
Elemental Tribal.
Yep.
Or what's the other one? Landfall?
Lands.
Some kind of landfall shenanigans.
Yep. Because you're already in the red-green, so we'll take your Mina and Den deck, for instance.
Sure.
That's already red-green. Now you're just adding blue to the mix, but you're getting to draw cards once you hit that 8 lands. So,
and frankly, Mina and Den's entire purpose in that deck, 95% of the time, is to be an exploration.
yep.
It's like my commander's an exploration. I mean, I occasionally use the trample ability, but some of the big creatures that care about lands have trample. I don't use it that often. I occasionally use it to bounce a land to get another landfall proc, but like not that frequently. I could very easily convert that deck to Omnath here and probably wouldn't change very much other than I would add blue.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few blue cards that would be nice in the deck, but there's not a whole lot that would really change the aspect of it.
So how do you deal with it, Max? When you see it, what's your game plan?
I think it kind of goes to what Chris says. It depends on the route they're going. If they're going elemental tribal, I think you can play it kind of safe because, it only targets one elemental when it enters the battlefield. It is an enter the battlefield trigger. So you do have stuff like, who's the dude from Everson Restored that flickers something with Soulbound?
Dead-Eye Navigator.
Thank you. You could do tricks with that to pump up a single elemental.
Sure. There's a few blue blink spells to get that ETB.
Yep. You're in the mana. You're in the colors to play Angry Omnath and regular Omnath.
But there's a lot of decent elementals in general if you're playing elemental tribal.
I still think if you wanted to do elemental tribal, I think Horde of Notions is better because you have all 5 colors.
Yeah.
The landfall route though is kind of hard because you have green and blue and red, so you have all the fun retreats from Zendikar. You have ramp. I think this is a mid-range type deck where you just kind of see how it goes, and I don't think it's super threatening like some of these other generals are.
What I think it's kind of intriguing, and I feel like no one's going to probably build this. This is the kind of commander where in 2 years, I'm looking to build a new deck, and I'm like, I've never seen anyone build an Omnath Locus of the Royal deck. I'm going to try it out because it's pretty obscure at this point. Everyone's forgotten about it. No one's built it because it's not that strong. So I think it's interesting in that regard. I do think you can mathematically figure out what's going on. You can look and say, he's got 6 lands in play. Okay, so he can cast Omnath. I don't care because he's 2 turns away from drawing anything. Or you can count and say there's 3 elementals in play. I don't care if he casts Omnath and lightning bolts me. Versus, he just cast a Firecat Blitz or what's the Tempt with Vengeance. He cast Tempt with Vengeance last turn and has 14 1/1 elementals in play, and I'm going to get domed if he casts Omnath. Yeah. But you can see all those things. That information's all on the board, allowing you to make your decision ahead of time and prepare for it. So I think that kind of hurts it. But I do think there's a ton of cool elementals, and I'm intrigued, but I agree Horde of Notions might be a better option.
Yeah.
This is the best set we've had in years for Horde of Notions. If you have a Horde of Notions deck or have always wanted to build one, this is the one to do it.
For sure. I'm interested to see how they're going to add black or white to the next Omnath. Well, because we're on 3 different flavors of Kool-Aid at this point.
The joke I made last night in EDH cast was it's not nearly as good as the 4-color Omnath we get in 2022. So, yeah. All right. We're down in the home stretch here. We got 4 left. Rienne, Angel of Rebirth. And this is the Buy a Box promo. 2 red, green, white. 5 mana total for a legendary creature angel. It has flying, and other multicolored creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever another multicolored creature you control dies, return to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. And it's a 5/4. So what are your thoughts when you see this flipped over in a pod?
It shouldn't be flipped over in a pod.
I hate this card with a passion.
Why do you just think it's not good?
I can think of, right off the top of my head right now, I can think of one other Better Naya commander that does very similar aspects to it. But there are tons of better Naya commanders than this.
I think the clear route here is probably, because there's enough stuff in Naya that's like sacrifice this creature or creatures you control gain indestructible end of turn, or sacrifice this creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment, which you bounce back your hand and replay, and you have some synergy going on there.
It's going to turn into that Avacyn deck like you built before, where it's so slow and grindy that it's not actually going to do anything.
And none of those things are cheap. They're all, because it requires 2 colors for you to get them back, they're going to be at least 2 colors. And a lot of those are going to wind up being 3 or 4. So, you can repeatedly use that ability, but at what cost? Is that worth the amount of mana you're going to have to spend just to generate value? At some point, we've all seen those decks that, the bad Marin deck, where they're just looping stuff a gazillion times at Marin, never actually accomplishing anything. And you're like, I'm just going to kill you in 2 turns because you've done a ton of stuff that's accomplished nothing. While I've done 3 things that have accomplished a ton. And this feels like the kind of deck where someone's going to waste a ton of time casting stuff and blinking and bringing it back and not actually really accomplishing very much.
Yeah, and there's not, like, if this were Abzan or Mardu, I might consider it a better general.
Maybe, yeah.
Because you have access to the black that gives you better sack outlets.
Sure.
That actually do more for you in the long run.
Yeah.
The one deck I do think we will see at some point, there's somebody out there who's always wanted to build Naya Angel Tribal and to throw Sigarda and Gisela and Aurelia and like all those 7-drop angels.
Like all the Achromas.
Yeah, everyone, like all the 2-color angels in a deck and like get them back and it's going to be not good. But I'll see that deck at some point. Someone will build that and that'll be fine. I mean, like any angel commander, someone will build an angel tribal deck for it. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And they'll have fun, and if that's you know what, good for you. If that's your jam, do that up. But I'm not worried about this across the table.
I'm completely honest, you're not going to have fun playing that deck.
At least you're in green, so you can ramp. I mean, like
you're still not going to have
but
fun.
Yes.
I mean, I liked this when it first got spoiled, but the more I thought about it, it just means I want to build Mael, because this is a 5-power creature.
Yes,
so I can get it off of Mael. I just build multicolor Mael.
Sure, yeah.
And make sure I can get everything back.
Yeah. Okay. Safara, the Skyblade Max.
4 and triple white for a legendary creature Angel. It's a 7/7 body. You may pay white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Safar also has flying and lifelink, and other creatures you control with flying have indestructible.
I mean, I know what the deck is if someone flips us over. I'm like,
Angel Tribal, or Flying Tribal.
Or right, you're running a bunch of flyers probably. I did see a deck in the shop just 2 weeks ago that was Radiant Archangel.
Yeah, it was
and it was flyers. And I'm like, man, I like, is he going to switch to, because I feel like he switched to Safar at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe Radiant stays in the deck, but because there was a bunch of he had a bunch of token makers in the deck too, because Radiant gets bigger for each flyer, so he had a bunch of the token makers. Like, man, it's pretty tempting just to flip Safara, cast Safara for 1 if you've made a handful of 4 spirit tokens off a triplicate spirit and something else.
For sure.
So, my comment on this, I think I was talking to, I think it was Don Miner at EDH Rec about it. I'm like, this isn't a great commander, but if you were a good deck builder and you want to challenge yourself to play mono white, you can build a deck and you'll win games with this. If you're not playing in like a hyper competitive CADH environment, if you're a good player, there's enough small white weenies and tokens that you can make. There's enough stuff like Cather's Crusade that buff those tokens up. Being able to play that 7/7 commander for 1 mana and have mana left over to drop that True Conviction or something else. I mean, like, you'll win games with this, I think.
Yeah.
But
but it's mono white.
It's mono white.
What happens after
Wrath?
and
It's mono white beats. There's no other way to win a game in this deck other than smacking somebody in the face.
Yeah, because I mean, you can't even put like approach in this deck to dig 7 fast enough.
I mean, you could if you were willing to wait 7 turns to get him back.
Mind's Eye and Endless Atlas and Condemn. No, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, is this going to go in your Jamoka deck?
No.
I pray it does not.
You don't have enough flyers to use the ability, and at that point, you might as well just play Avacyn if you're going to play something that expensive.
Right. I only have about 19 creatures in that deck, counting Jamoka. I have 1 token maker, which is Luminarch Ascension, which is on the cusp of getting cut in general. Sure. I don't have many creatures that are over 6 in that deck. I think Jamoka is the highest. I mean, if I were going to put a 7-drop back in that deck, it's going to be the Angel that has Flash and exiles all attacking creatures. It's because it's just better defensively.
When someone flips over Safara Sky's Blade, I'm completely like, all right, man, come on, bro.
Let's do it.
Let's see what happens, because if you kill me, you earned it. You've earned it playing that deck, and you get my props, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I like it, but this is a deck you build when you want to be challenged. And that's it, I think.
Yeah.
Chris, we will hand the last monocolored commander, Vilis, over to you.
So we got Vilis, Broker of Blood. 5 colorless and 3 black pips for an 8/8 flying legendary demon. So for 1 black, you may pay 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards.
Oh, because how could that possibly go wrong?
I like this. I like this card, but I hate this card at the same time.
You have to have it out for it to do anything. If that had Eminence, whenever you lose life, draw that many cards.
God.
That'd be great. I'd run this all day long and never cast him.
I mean, it is a
So as your commander, we're not talking in a deck, because in a deck, it's definitely
wonderful in a
wonderful.
deck. Yes.
As someone's commander, number one, you can see it coming. You can count the pips. You're like, man, you're 7 turns away from casting that commander. But if they cast that commander and it sits in play, that's not good. Nothing good will come of that at all.
It's a 3-turn clock.
Yeah.
It's a 3-turn
But
clock.
they're not gonna. They're gonna kill you by drawing 112 cards or something. And like, I mean, they're like, hey, my Necropotence now draws me 2.
See, I absolutely love everything about this card when you look from legendary creature text down.
Yes.
When you look up, aside from the art's cool,
Yeah.
but when you look out,
That
the rest of it
casting
just sucks. Yes.
I like. I'm a fan of Knight's Whisper drawing me 4. That's pretty sweet.
Yes, that's true.
Read the bones, scry 2, draw 4. That's okay. Like, there's so many things that
The
become
ability,
stupid in this
is
deck.
really good too.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
just
ability's
to
great
wrap
too.
the board out.
Yeah. Pestilence. Pestilence for 7. Draw 7, wipe the board, and smack somebody in the face.
And Grizzlebrand is banned.
But you have to get right. But like, well, at least Grizzlebrand I get. Like, Grizzlebrand
has
probably some
lifelink, I get
wins.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This guy ain't got no
You have to
lifelink.
get there. But there's
We can give him lifelink.
like getting lifelink amount of black isn't a problem.
Whip Erebos.
So this would definitely be a card in the list that I'm building for Najeela. That's Najeela Reanimator.
Okay.
Because it would be a card that you would just go right into your deck, be like, oh, cool, in the graveyard,
Yeah.
we'll just bring it back and do shenanigans from there.
I will also note, like, as part of the 99, the field, like, we've got a ton of these demons in the last couple of years that are 7 or 8 mana that are all really, really good. And you can only run so many 7 or 8 drop demons in a deck, even if it's, Kaalia the Vast. Like, but this one's fantastic. I just don't know if anyone's going to play it. And this, like we said, talking about Thraxamundar, where you count the pips or whatever and see whether they can cast it. Everyone at the table is discussing, like, what's the at for mana over there? 6? Okay, we're good.
Yeah, why can't this card have Delve and Convoke?
There you go.
Delvan Convoke.
This is a commander that just resonates Dana because
It does, man. I want to draw cards and do
I'm
them.
reckless with my life total, and I like to draw cards. I'm surprised Dana's like, I'm building it.
I'm kind of thinking about it. I want to see if anyone else builds it. I'm kind of thinking about it because I will kill myself. I will kill myself so often with this card. And it'll be a fine way to lose every game.
Ancient Tomb draws you 2 cards.
Yeah. I am all over it.
All the Bandit War draws you 3 cards.
And it gives it haste.
And it gives it haste.
Oh, that's totally my jam.
But say you to,
It's let's see, it's turn 7. Dana's down to 2. Who's hit him? Nobody's hit him yet. He's at 2. All right.
this would be the deck I think you'd feel okay casting Torment to Hellfire in.
Yeah, sure. At this point, right? Because
You're at 2 life.
I'll be perpetually at 10 life in this deck. I like it. I think it's going to be easy to respond to. Like,
Yeah.
you're not catching anyone by surprise with this deck.
Yeah, why can't this guy just cost like 4 mana and be like a 3/3?
That would be insane. That would be insane. I think he's fairly priced. I think if you make him any cheaper than, maybe you could go to 7, but like any cheaper than that, it's so broken. I think it's fun though. I want to see it. I might build it. Max, we'll pass the last one here to you.
Yarok, the Desecrated. 2 and Sultai, black, green, blue for a legendary creature, Elemental Horror. It's a 3/5. It has Death Touch and Lifelink. It also has, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time, aka Dana, don't play this deck.
That's a lot of triggers to keep track of.
This is, wow.
This one is by far my favorite out of all of them.
Yeah.
It's rewarding you for playing cards that you were probably already playing anyway in Sultai, which is a bunch of ETB stuff.
This plus Panharmonicon is 3 triggers, and
The one thing I would recommend if you build this and you're playing against me, you want to run all the Ravnica bounce lands. You want to run the new
And Amulet of Vigor.
the new Lotus Field. You want to run stuff like Scorch Ruin because it's not a May effect.
Okay, so I'm getting off topic here right now. But you just mentioned that new Lotus Field card.
Yeah.
And I want to put this on air right now, saying that lately it seems like Wizards is testing the boundary
Oh, yeah.
of
Oh,
breaking
yeah.
the reserve
Yeah.
list.
Yeah. Yes. We'll discuss that in the next show.
Yes.
All right.
I just wanted to make sure this is out now because it's in my mind because you just brought it up.
Oh, they're pushing it for sure. But it's not a May effect on that ETB ability being copied. So if you play a Ravnica Bounce land,
You turn 2.
you return 2 lands to your hand. If you play like that Lotus Field where you have to sacrifice 2 lands to it, you got to sacrifice 4.
But if you have Amulet of Vigor out and you play it, it triggers twice, and you're like, tap on tap, tap on tap, bounce 2 lands. Now I have all this mana.
True. If you have Amulet out, that does maybe offset it a little bit. But that's one thing. I guarantee you I will play this at some point, and someone will not realize the negative effects are also copied, and I'll be watching for that just to laugh when they screw themselves up with a bounce land or something.
Get wrecked!
I mean, yes, I know. First of all, I know what the deck's going to be. I know you're going to run as many ETB things as possible. And as a result of that, how do you shut it down? Because, okay, you're not doubling your ETBs. You're just getting the normal Mull Drifter trigger, which is already good. You're just getting the normal Eternal Witness trigger, which is already good. So the cards that are already good
I don't think there's really
good.
a way to shut this down. It's just to
Race it.
It's going to come down to draws.
Yes.
Is what it's going to be.
Right.
Whoever's going to draw better, be able to set up the sequencing of the cards. Whoever starts it is going to be the one who probably ends up finishing the game off better.
I think it's a little. It also kind of bores me in that I just know what that's going to be.
It's going to be a dirtle fest.
Yeah,
It's going to this is going to cause like a 2-hour game just because.
It's another Muldrotha kind of ability deck where there's going to be, maybe not everybody, but like there's going to be a lot of newer players who are just going to spin their wheels.
I just want to see Hostage Shaker come down and go, bam, 2 things.
Yeah. One thing I think you will see some good players like dig really deep and find some old obscure things that maybe getting 1 trigger off it isn't great, but getting 2 triggers off this random Mercadian Masks common makes it way, way better.
Yep.
I like seeing that, but I do think it's just there's gonna be a lot of like, hey, that's a cool double Eternal Witness you just got there. I'm all right, whatever, fine.
Yeah, because in these colors you really don't have any good ETB create tokens or anything like that.
Not really the army and the can. There's a few things in black and green that do. I mean, not nearly as good as red does, that kind of thing.
Oh, gross! Got Eternal Ronus.
Yeah.
I mean,
double again.
Craterhoof Behemoth. I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, even the if you played Enchantress, I guess I don't know if you'd played it as an Enchantress, but like it doubles up your
draws.
Nylea's Colossus.
Yeah.
Damage double too, so it doubles and doubles every time you play an enchantment.
Gross.
Yeah. It's
a
pretty, thing, and it's you can see what it's going to be.
I do like the theory that people think it's Hissing Quagmire. Finally, like evolved.
That's clever.
If you compare the arts, it's like it's coming out of the Quagmire.
And that's supposed to be Zendikar, so that could be. That's clever. I'd like to see them do that. Okay, that's cool. All right. So I have said if I'm going to build one, it's going to be Vilis. Do either of you two have any interest, Chris? Would you build Yarok, or would you have one that you're going to build here? You said the 5-color.
The 5-color one would be the one.
How about you, Max? Anything jumping out at you?
Not at the moment. Like I said, I was originally thinking about that Naya Angel, but it's better off in a different deck.
You just build Mile.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at this point, no. I have some other decks that are, the commanders have been out long enough to where they aren't in the shop,
Sure.
so I'm going to build those instead.
Nice. Okay. All right. I think that is going to be it for our review of the Legends from Core Set 2020. We'll be back on Thursday with a Deck Tech. Our podcast theme song is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod. Our show was edited by Ken Peddle. You can find him on Twitter at LOAD3R. Until next week, I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.